going to be a good one today from Western North Dakota. The men and women in blue are coming at you straight off the cuff today. And I say that with a chuckle because this one might get a little interesting. Lieutenant Hannell, Mikey, with our guest that we're going to have today, kind of the OG of humor, a local legend in some regards to some of the community members, canine officer Jayden Peters and his companion Kalo.
Yep. Local legends both, so I think it'll be a good one. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no doubt. I thought at the beginning we talked before a little bit about we've had a lot of things happening since the last time we were together and doing such, and with the Snowmageddon, your self-titled, the department titled production there that you did throughout the last big snowstorm. I think there's some things maybe the citizens want to know what was going on during that time. I know there was a lot of Facebook feeds and some social media things happening, but maybe we can talk a little about the nuts and the bolts of it. Yeah,
it was. It's been a while since we've had to do something like that. You know, I was chatting with even our kids probably not experiencing a snowfall quite that intense, you know, in recent memory. So that was kind of exciting. You know, the snow shoveling and the snow blowing wasn't quite the best, but
because how old are your boys now?
8 and 10. So that would have been, you know, the closest one would have been in 2009. So yeah, they run around for that one. So
right.
Yeah,
I said, you know, I have 5 and 3-year-old, and the oldest she had never seen anything like that. Right? She was just blown away. Open up the blinds, and what in the heck is going on, Daddy?
Right. Yeah. So it definitely posed a challenge for the city, and a lot of the newcomers to Dickinson probably have never experienced it before. So we tried to do some stuff out of the box and whatnot, and tried to do this Facebook Live, tapping into our social media account here a little bit, and I tried to get the word out and keep people informed as best we could. So yeah, we tried that a little bit, and just tried to locally here within the department, I should say, that was obviously more of a challenge, trying to figure out ways to shuttle people around and getting officers and dispatchers in for shift work. So we had to utilize our Bearcat, obviously our 18,500-pound Bearcat, and it did good until Jayden Peters shift. Yeah, I'm looking at you right now, bud. They met their match out in Sundance Coves and just got it buried. We'll have to ask them about that.
We'll get that dear chief letter on the record.
Yep. So we got that taken care of, and everybody got dug out. Took a while, and then obviously we had the one right after that. So a lot of snow shoveling, a lot of snow blowing here. I actually kind of felt like you there for a while. I think maybe one more snowstorm, and I think I probably would have been making those gains there. But
it's amazing how many friends you have when physical labor starts to need to be done here. My phone is like, oh, what do you got going on here? I think to the specific story on that, so people hear, so the Bearcat itself, like we get out into this area, right, and then the attempt to get it out after it's stuck, after it has a pretty successful stretch during this thing. Bumper goes off this thing. I'm going to back off it again because I think it'll be funner, because I saw the video that was captured a little bit from Jayden.
Yeah, we might actually have to overlay that here, the video version here. That was kind of funny. Minus maybe some audio cuts off of that, but we'll see. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Pretty impressive. You know, you did as part of your PIO duties for the department, had to do some follow-up. How did that kind of work in the middle of a snow emergency and for the department? Can you maybe talk to the citizens, what's going on behind the scene, what we're trying to do to feed them like the right information, because, you know, it doesn't happen a lot, but obviously we try to be as best prepared for them as we can, and you do a great job when it comes to the public information stuff, Mike. So how does that kind of work at the beginning and through it?
Sure. Yeah, it takes a big collaboration with everybody that's involved, you know, with city staff, with the city street department, and the irony of that is our main echelon of managers for the Public Works Department. We're actually in Pennsylvania accepting a pretty prestigious award for snow removal or snow operations, their snow operating plan when the storm hit. So that was kind of fun, but they even remotely they were able to do it. And you know, our Public Works staff, I'm truly proud of them. You know, just from as a fellow city employee, they really put in the time and the effort to get us dug out as quick as possible. So, and then so it was just a collaboration with them, collaboration with our Chief Dossinger, who's now the interim city administrator here, just having daily conference calls with him and making sure that the public was aware of what the city was doing to mitigate as best we could.
Yeah, I think that's a good plug-in for, I know Aaron Prowse out there. He was stepping in kind of an interim role while those other individuals receiving the award out in Pittsburgh were there, and I think there was a lot of compliments on how they had done things. I mean, and it's an overwhelming task. It's I know a lot of citizens get frustrated at that time because you want your snow removed as fast as possible, but you know,
100 and I'm not even sure the number anymore. 142 miles of road. I don't know, that might be a little off, but so that's a lot of roadway to cover for the staff that they got out there. And obviously they did reach out to some contractors that assisted as well. So that's very appreciative for that. And it was a big team effort, especially for us around here. We had people working a little extra to cover the shifts over the overlap, and ultimately just we got it done. Nobody got hurt, and citizens still got the services that they needed.
Yeah, I think 140 some for like if you think of it as one lane, but if you think 2 lane, then again, backway, viceway, it's about close to 300 miles.
Yeah,
and so it's pretty astonishing to kind of comprehend that when you think, we just live in this small little town. It shouldn't be that much of a task, right? And then down on Villard, that one time I was driving down, they must have had a dozen trucks, lined up on the snow removal end of it, and that was in a couple of different spots in town. But
yeah, I vaguely remember one of the early morning conference calls. The moisture content that we were having for that first snowstorm, it was all in that first couple layers. So you're trying to get a loader up and get under it and push it, and then try to blow it, and it was a mess. So, but only in North Dakota can you have something like that. And then this last snowstorm having another blizzard and then a tornado watch a couple 100 miles away. Go figure.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. What were some of the numbers our officers had responded to, the significant ones for rides, and we were trying to service a bunch of essential workers, as part of our other duties?
Yeah. So snowstorm number 1, before we kind of changed gears a little bit how we operated, we're at least 70 calls for service for rides, assisting the hospital and some other critical infrastructure employees to be able to get to work, and we realized pretty quickly that that probably wasn't going to be manageable. So storm number 2, we kind of changed gears a little bit and really relied a lot on like citizen snowmobile clubs, and they really came through for us and to be able to do that. And so storm number 2, I think we were a little bit better prepared, got all the stakeholders on the same page, and I think that's going to be our operating plan going forward. We're going to be doing a debrief here on this whole event later today, actually, I believe. So we're going to get some stuff on paper so that that way when storm number 3 happens here, whenever that's going to be, hopefully a while from now, but we'll be definitely be able to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, it's just for all of us, we know sometimes it's unfortunate. We're trying to fight our last war type of thing, but doing our best for sure. I know you guys are a lot of conversations about it, and they did a real nice job, Mike, on those releases. So
yeah, thank you.
So maybe we'll pick it up here with Mr. Peters, Trinity High School grad. I'll let you talk a little bit, Jayden, give your background and some people that don't know you, which there's not going to be that many that don't listen to this, right?
I'm sure there's plenty.
But there is, and you were working throughout, Snowmageddon a little bit. Maybe just since we're there visiting about it, how was that for you?
So the first 10 minutes of the day was fun. Driving the Bearcat and plowing through snow that was going over the hood of the Bearcat and thinking this thing's unstoppable until we figured out it is stoppable. Not so fun. And Jesse Kubik, our newest officer on our shift, or one of the newest officers on our shift, got his workout in. We actually got it stuck twice. First time, no fault of my own, obviously, even though I was driving. It was buried enough. We had a couple awesome citizens come out, and they were assisting us as well. They had snow blowers, and they're blowing around it. And Jesse and I dug a little bit, but he did the brunt of the work.
Yeah, I got Jesse Kubik, another local guy, Trinity High School grad. So tell me how this thing works out a little bit here. You got a guy who's built like a left tackle, played left tackle. And I would imagine you guys probably rode that horse a little bit.
Yes, we did. As you can tell, I'm not built like a left tackle. Yeah. So, he was out there and shoveled, and we actually got it unstuck. And the reason we got stuck is there was another vehicle that had gotten stuck in the middle of the road, so I tried to go around it. Didn't work. Got ourselves unstuck, so we're like, all right, we're going to come back in on the path we just came in on 30 minutes prior. Well, that snow came down so hard, and wind was blowing so hard at the time that it filled back in. I couldn't see my old track and just stayed in the middle of the road as best I could because you couldn't see 10 feet. And then we really buried it. And then there was no digging that one out. And, I think I jumped out of the Bearcat and I was up to my waist in snow, and yeah, it was heavy, wet snow, and I was like, there's no way. So yeah, we called the city. They came out with the big plowed around us. Me being smart me, I hooked the tow strap to a tow hook, one would think. Yeah, he plows all the way around us, thinking, all right, just got to pop us forward a couple feet here. I'll get the tires back on the ground. We'll go, no problem. So he tightens up the rope.
Are we at rated G, PG, PG-13, or rated R by this time?
At this time, I'd say we're PG-13 with some jokes. It turned R real quick. Yeah, so he, it was me and Sergeant Frederick was sitting in the front seat there with me, and as soon as that rope tightened up, I'm like, all right, here we go. So I'm
seeing a theme here. Sergeant Frederick, got another, he's Trinity guy a little bit there. I think he graduated.
Yeah, the Titans rolling around the Bearcat.
So you let him run loose with the heavy equipment. That's
right. Sorry, my dad didn't get a call from the principal because that was a normal thing. But yeah, so we're sitting there, and next thing I know, I'm getting ready for that little bit of a pull to pop us out, and we didn't budge an inch. And Justin looked at me, and I looked at him. I can't say it on the radio now, but there were some words exchanged, and I was like, no, that's the bumper. Yeah, and went out, and there's a 400-pound bumper sitting on the ground, and
well, it'll be good. Mikey gets a clip put into this thing.
Yeah, definite classic.
Yeah,
right there.
It's good. So you're what I say in a obviously a real grand way here. I mean, you're a lifer here, Dickinson native.
Yep.
Born and raised. So
Born and raised, yeah.
Why don't you tell them a little bit about the Jayden Peters of Dickinson here?
Yeah, so born and raised in Dickinson. Went to St. Pat's, which is now Trinity West, where my kids now, or my oldest, is going. From there, went to Trinity High School, graduated from there. Spent 1 year at DSU, kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Coppin was not even on my mind at this point in time.
What was on your mind?
Other things.
Yeah.
No, I originally didn't really know right away, honestly. That's why I figured I'd just go get some generals out of the way. Then from there, I decided I'm going to try to be an electrician. Turns out I don't like electricity, so that didn't work out real well. I attended Wapton NDSCS for 2 years for that. Realized that was not the path I wanted to go.
Did you do any practicing of electrician?
I did. I worked for Berger Electric here in the summertime, and electrocuted myself several hundred times, and so realized, this isn't very fun. It just wasn't for me. I just couldn't see myself continuing doing that. Started thinking some other routes I might go. At that point in time, I was not getting paid to fish or hunt professionally, so that obviously was my only other option I wanted to do, which was not possible. So honestly, I think it was one time I was at NDSCS, and there was a flyer on the wall for the Highway Patrol of we're hiring, and kind of piqued my interest, started looking into it, and thought about it for a while. I have no other family members that were law enforcement, anything like that. So I was usually the one running from the law, not the one enforcing it. So I thought, what the heck, I'll look into it a little bit. And here we are now. I went to Bismarck State and worked on my criminal justice there. And
you remember her story at the beginning? It would have been, I think, your brother Mitch, formerly Liquid Assets, now Neighbors. And I think first time we had met, and you were interested in it and exploring it and then applying it. And we had a conversation there, and there was some social lubrication involved, of course, about it. And you recall that? I do. Yeah. So.
I think, like Kylan, obviously you piqued my interest a little bit more talking to you and stuff, and got the ball rolling a little bit. And unfortunately for you guys, now I'm here. But yes, it's...
What was the catalyst that you decided, instead of the brown uniform with the goofy hat, you decided to do the blue uniform with it?
I honestly, I don't really know what the catalyst was. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I do. When I was going to Bismarck, I interned with the Highway Patrol, and awesome guys over there, had a ton of fun with them, but it wasn't enough interaction with people to me. I mean, minus, the traffic stops, traffic accidents, things like that. But I was kind of missing that little bit of what I consider copping. The responding to calls and things like that. Not that those guys don't do it, because they do, but not on the level that we do. And I don't know. I just couldn't see myself riding around on the interstate all day. I like to stop in and talk to people. I'm a little bit of a talker when if you know me. And So it's, and like I said, not saying those guys can't do it and don't do it, but, a lot of time they're just driving around on their own and responding to calls on their own and everything like that. And I don't know, I like to be able to come back to the office and BS with the guys and stop into any of the local businesses and talk to people, whatever the case may be. And I just thought that was a better fit for me than being on the highway.
Yeah, so. there really is some of the, and they're good differences. But each one of the brown uniform, the blue uniform, bring forth a different set of.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're very helpful with us all the time. I mean, I give those guys all the credit in the world to be out there and doing this on their own, because I know that I'm minutes away from backup at all times, and those guys are not. So, I'm seconds away from backup with Kalo in the back of the car, but it's a different beast, and you have to act a little different on the highway than you do in city. So.
We get a lot of people here locally, and they promoting locally, supporting locally. And you think about being a local guy, working for a local department, place you're born and raised, raised a lot of hell back in the day. Like
a little bit.
Had some fun. You're going to have some friends listening to this. They're going to be telling some stories, and all that good stuff. But, I think it's good. What is it for you, the goods and the bads, right? You're the difficulties, the goods and the difficulties, when you're in your hometown policing. Because we know one thing, Jayden, you speak well of the department. You love it. You love this thing that you're doing, serving, a community that you were born and raised in. Maybe talk through that a little bit on both ends for our listeners.
Yeah. So, honestly, when I applied here, I was a little hesitant just because of the fact knowing so many people. But then I started really thinking about it, and, the people I know and friends of mine, chances are I'm not going to be dealing with them on a daily basis anyways. If I do, it's probably in a good setting, or maybe the occasional traffic stop or something, and whatever the case may be. But so I looked at it and I was like, well, I could apply elsewhere and not know anybody, but Dickinson's home to me. It's my family's here, a good chunk of my family's here and everything. And so, yeah, like I said, I was hesitant at first, but couldn't speak more highly of this department. And I've had a ton of fun in these 11 years. It happens way less often than I thought it would, where I'd be running into people that I actually know. And like I said, when I do on a call, it's usually not for something bad. Not saying it hasn't happened, and then it's a little awkward at times, but they know I'm there to do a job, so it is what it is. But as far as if anyone's thinking about it and they're a little hesitant, just thinking, I don't want to work in my hometown, don't be. It's awesome, and it's kind of nice because you go somewhere else and you got to meet the whole community. Where here, I knew a good chunk of the community as it is already, and so it's easier transition, I think. And now it's really nice having grandpa and grandmas nearby for the kids to watch when I'm gone on my hunting expeditions and fishing trips. So it works out good.
Yeah, Mikey here, obviously being another one born and raised here, but from my purview on it, it's it can be a deep statement, but simply if it's done the right way, it's the best. Mm-hmm. When we get our local, regional people that are here serving where they've been, if they're doing it the right way, it's the absolute best way to serve.
Right.
And so there's a bunch of you guys that's a testament to, and we get all kinds of compliments on that end of it from, some of the locals. So so let's talk a little bit of the career progression here. We wanted we're excited for the punchline coming up here for the guests here. We will be doing an introduction, special guest. You have Officer Peters' compadre, Kalo. And so this canine business, how long have you been doing this canine business?
So it is pushing 8 years now. I'm at about 7.5 years of doing canine.
So you got into it pretty quick, like?
Yeah, I was year 3.
Yeah, that doesn't happen that often. So
no.
How's this been? What's this been like for you?
Been an adventure. My first dog, Nico, she was a rock star. I was actually her second handler. John Hilton, and who's now at the sheriff's office, was her original handler, and he had left. And I took her over and ran her for almost 3 years, and about 3.5 years actually. And she had an unfortunate accident with bloat, and ended up having to put her down.
What breed was?
She was a Belgian Malinois.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was just a single-purpose Malinois. She was a sweetheart, rock star of a dope dog. She was a stud.
So when you are in a situation where you're taking over, there's these different situations, but when you're taking a dog over from a prior handler, what does that look like? Because it's not just like you can give your dog to me, right, and we can just go do whatever. How does that work?
So usually on the single purpose side of things with the single purpose dogs, when I say single purpose, that means they're just using narcotics. It's a little simpler with that, just because you don't have that apprehension aspect of the dogs to worry about and things like that. So it's really pretty much dumb guy hold leash and follow dog around. Dog shows you where the stuff is at. Well, I'm dumb guy, so I could hold a leash. So that's easy. And Nico, she was so good to begin with. It was just an easy transition for me. And, you know, some dogs take to handlers quicker than others too. And she was one of them where, I mean, I think any one of us, I could have given you the leash and went around and she'd have found the stuff for you. She was super easy. And so on that aspect, you know, every dog's a little different. I mean, it's nothing different. Like we have canine Norman. He's paired with Officer Machowski, and Norman was originally paired with Officer Easterling. That transition happened after Officer Easterling left us, and yeah, from day one, I mean, and there's little hiccups here and there, and whatever with every handler and every dog. I still have them, and no, the transition on a single-purpose dog is usually for the most part pretty easy. It doesn't happen that often, but you know, in my time doing canine now, it's happened twice here already. But you know, me just the one time with Nico, but.
How did you have to get off the launch pad as a handler? What did we do as a department? I know this obviously because I see your sheets. So sometimes I ask these questions. But talk about that a little.
Yeah, so you know, with Nico, it literally was here's the leash. You have a certification next week. So it was rushed, but it wasn't. I had been riding around with it was at the time. I got to think back if it was it was Spo Lee at the time, who was one of our canine handlers, Corey Lee. He was my FTO, and he had Canine Buster at the time. And so just riding with him, I learned a lot right there, as far as how things work.
Shadowing, mirroring.
Right. And I grew up with dogs. I mean, I'm a big bird hunter and stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of the same aspect, you know, as far as you look for a dog to get birdie, and that's what it is. And so watching him, I learned a lot just as far as how the narcotic side of things work. And so like I said, it was a rushed, but I felt prepared for it type of situation. I had her for 1 week, and we did that week. We spent a lot of time. He spent a lot of time with me, brushing me up on what I'm doing, what I'm looking for, whatever. Went to that first certification, and it wasn't an easy one either. And no, she was a rock star. I mean, we got 100% on it in the first week. I was hoping to find one hide, and she rocked it and made me look good. And like I said, I'm just the dumb guy holding the leash. The dogs are the ones doing the work. So no, it was a bit of a eye-opening experience for me, I guess. It was more involved than I thought it was going to be, even on just the single-purpose side of it. Mike, and he can attest to it. I mean, he ran a canine. He gets it. Yeah, and then now you're talking transitioning, you know, from Nico going to a dual-purpose dog, and that's a whole nother demon. And no pun intended, but he's a special creature. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, I would never want to go back to the single purpose thing now. I mean, the dual purpose side is so much more fun. It's much more frustrating, but it's a ton of fun. And I love training dogs. I love working with dogs. But it's awesome. I couldn't see myself doing anything else here.
So unpack maybe just the science behind detection work and apprehension work a little bit. So you just focusing in on the single purpose of the narcotics detection. What kind of drugs are our dogs?
Yeah, so our two current dogs, Kalo and Norman, they're both certified and trained in marijuana, methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine. And as far as, you know, we get asked that question all the time. Well, how do they know it's in there? Well, the dog doesn't know that the drug itself is in there. They smell the odor. The odor is there. You know, and on the street when we get those alerts, you don't find anything in there as a handler. You know, sometimes that can be frustrating. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great if there's no drugs on the street, but we know they're out there. So, yeah, when you get those alerts, don't find anything. Well, the dog's not wrong. I mean, you got to trust your dog, and he's telling you, I smell the odor. The odor's here. And so therefore, yeah, just because the product itself isn't in there doesn't mean the odor's not there. That odor sticks in there for a long time. I mean, you think of, especially marijuana, as much as it stinks. I know the evil green lettuce, yes, I get it. But, you know, that odor stinks so bad that, it just stays in that vehicle for a long, long time. And people, they have it on their hands. They grab their door handles. You know, door handles are plastic. They're porous. Those odors stick in there. Not just marijuana. I mean, it's all the narcotics, but... so that odor sticks there for a long time. So just because the dog's alert and you're not finding it doesn't necessarily mean the odor's not there. I mean, like I said, the biggest thing you learn as a canine handler is trust your dog. If you start overthinking things, you're going to start screwing up a whole bunch.
And the benefit of that for our officers there, when you get a dog and it alerts, what has the court said for the officers, and what can they do with that after the dog?
Yeah, so there's a few things. I mean, and there's always case law is always changing, but the biggest thing is when those officers contact me or Troy or any canine handler for that matter. What we're looking for is that officer needs to establish a little bit of reasonable suspicion to start. Yes, I can go run my dog around any car on any traffic stop I want to. Case law supports that. We don't always do that because it's a time thing, whatever else. And but if that officer establishes that reasonable suspicion, they call me up, and now at that time, now we have a little bit longer we can detain that person because now we're investigating, potential narcotics. The court has never said it has to be done in 15 minutes and that's all you have. I mean, 20-minute thing has kind of been the unspoken rule, I guess you might say. So we try to not extend the stop more than we have to, especially if there isn't anything in there. I don't want, if someone's on their way to go get groceries and we're stopping them and doing this, I want to get you on your way. If there's nothing in there, let's get you out of here. But, so what happens then is, obviously, I'll respond. They'll contact me if I'm on call all the time. So I might get contacted at home at 2 a.m, get up, get dressed, get the dog, go, and show up. And as long as that dog, if we as a handler, what we're looking for is that final alert or a very distinct change of behavior. Either one. You don't always get that exact final alert, that pretty sit and stare at the odor. Sometimes the way these dogs are trained is they go to the source of the odor. So if they can't make it to that source, they're going to show you. It's just like if any hunters out there, if you got a bird dog, you can see that dog getting birdie and he's running back and forth and getting that wind and getting that scent, but he can't get to the bird. Well, there's a bird there, but you can't quite get to it yet. It's no different with narcotics. And so, if we see that as a handler, I can call that as well. Yes, he smells the odor. It is there. That is an alert in and of itself. It's just not that final alert, that sit, scratch, stare, whatever the case may be, whatever your dog is, if he's aggressive alert or passive alert. So right there, it's like, all right, yeah, that's where the odor's coming out the most. I'll call it, we'll put him in the car. From that point in time, now the car is ours. So now I can search that car without a search warrant.
Because what is the dog established for the officer?
So he establishes probable cause. So
let's talk real quick here on because at the beginning you mentioned reasonable suspicion. So for our listeners, there'll be some that will know, maybe get some attorneys listening, but you think of beyond a reasonable doubt, 99.999998, whatever. You think of probable cause sitting down there, maybe that 25, 30, pretty low. Reasonable suspicion, even lower than that, sitting down there, 10, 15. It's a very low threshold that we're talking about. So just to give some context to people when we're these terms are getting thrown out there. So going back to, so the probable cause so
you got the probable cause. And vehicles are different than homes, obviously. Yes, you still have an expectation of privacy in a vehicle, but it's not to the same level as it is as a home. You're out driving in the public on a public road. So I don't need a search warrant now. Now, if I was to go sniff a house for whatever reason, say it's an apartment complex, yes, that changes things. But, as far as a vehicle goes, now dog alerts, we now have probable cause to make entry into that vehicle and search that vehicle for narcotics. Now at that time, we can hold you as long as we need to because we have that. There's no, you got to be done searching in 10 minutes, and sometimes you get people behind you yelling at you, whatever else, and to hurry up and whatever. But it is what it is. The odor's there. We're gonna look, and more times than not, obviously, once you get that alert, you're finding something in there.
What's your biggest seizure so far? Either two dogs.
So with Nico, I got to think back. I think we had 15 pounds, I think it was, of marijuana.
Where was that at?
But that one came off of the bus line on that one.
Okay.
But we also got a gun out of that one as well.
That's good.
And so that was the biggest one I had with her. With her, I also had, I had some pretty good meth seizures as well. Nothing wow, but in town, you're usually not finding those big loads in town. You're finding the smaller things. Our odds of actually finding that big load aren't as high as it is, say, if you're working the interstate or something like that. Not saying they don't come through here, because they do, but to actually make that traffic stop at that time while that load is in that car, you have to get pretty lucky. And last year was one of those times we actually got pretty lucky. Kalo, we got a little over 10 pounds of meth, along with a couple firearms and a pretty good chunk of change as well in cash. And so that one was a good one. That was the biggest meth seizure, and I think I had like a 16-pound marijuana seizure with him as well. And that one also came off the bus, the marijuana one, but the meth was on a traffic stop.
I know there's some other neat stories here I want you to get into on some of the article sniffs and stuff that we've had, some success stories. I think they'll really enjoy hearing from you. What's it been like, when you got Mikey in the room here, join in, what's this transition of the canine world been over the last couple decades here? How have things changed from the breed of the dog, the desire for the dogs that we're running, some of that can...
Yeah, so I mean, you see a lot of... The transition now is you see more and more of the dual purpose side of dogs. Even when I first started, there wasn't many of them in the state. There was a couple, but there wasn't a ton. It was mostly single purpose. And now I think a lot of departments are starting to see this, where that dual purpose dog, I mean, we're not out biting people left and right. That doesn't happen around here. But it's just another tool in the tool belt to have. But with that, you're also getting some other things as well. I mean, you're getting that tracking ability, everything like that. So to go back to your question, you're seeing more and more of the pointy-eared dogs. So the German Shepherds, the Belgian Malinois. Kalo, now he's a mix between the two. He's
because up to that point, what was it?
You've seen a lot of labs. They were still. I mean, Nico, she was a single purpose. She was a Malinois, but a lot of labs mainly. And there were still shepherds and everything else out there as well that were just single purpose dogs and everything. But more and more, if you see a lab anymore, and you go to certification, you see a lab, it almost surprises you, and they're awesome. They're great dope dogs. I mean, Canine Norman's a black lab, and it was Talon. He was a black lab. I mean, if you find a good lab, they're hard to beat, honestly, and just their demeanor and their pace that they move at and everything. Because running Kalo is like running a F-16 fighter jet around a car. I mean, it's 10,000 miles an hour, and But so labs are a little bit slower typically, and they work really good, and obviously great sense of smell. And you're seeing that transition more so into the pointy-eared dogs, more so now, and more of the dual purpose dogs. You can just see it seems like the last 5 years especially, more and more departments around the state are adding dogs. And it used to be we'd go to say Bismarck for a training or certification, there'd be 6, 7, 8 dogs. Now you show up there and there's 20, 30 dogs there from around the state. And go to USPCA certifications in Fargo, and there's 60, 70 dogs there, and that's from North Dakota, and then a couple come over from Minnesota as well. But it's getting to be more prevalent. I think a lot of departments are seeing the usefulness of these dogs and what they can do, and it's not just always just for narcotics. There's so much more that these dogs can do and are capable of, and it's just awesome.
How many things is and this is a gray area, right? But I suppose the competency of the dog, capabilities of the dogs, and all. How many things can you train one dog on?
It's endless, honestly. It depends on what you want to do with that dog. I mean, like Kalo. So now, we have the narcotic side of it, we have the apprehension side of it, and then we have tracking, article search. I mean, you can go on and on with these dogs. You can pretty much teach a dog to do most anything you need in the police world. They're capable of doing more than just sniffing things out.
What are some rare things you've seen some of the dogs trained on? Do you have anything there off the top?
No, there's no I guess nothing I can.
Or what's the category? We think about drugs. We think about some of the apprehension side of it. Articles. What are some other things in there that they're training our law enforcement dogs on right now?
I mean, there's cadaver dogs. There's bomb dogs. I guess on the law enforcement world, those are kind of, the two other things, and then, like you said, the tracking side of it. So the High Patrol, they got a couple bloodhounds that's what they do is, I mean, those dogs are on another level when it comes to tracking. And they even track differently than, say, your pointy-eared dogs do. It's a whole different set of
genetics.
Yeah. It's just, it's different, and, it seems like, like I said, going back more and more, departments are getting these dogs and not doing them just a single purpose narcotics dog. You're getting more of the dual purpose dogs.
Okay. What do you think the trend is there moving forward when it comes to the odor detection stuff as it relates, marijuana getting legalized in a bunch of different states, right. Still illegal at the federal level, North Dakota, we still have criminalization and such like that. Can you talk through some of the listeners, help them understand where are we going with that? Yeah.
So, the unfortunate side is you can't untrain a dog on an odor because Kalo and Norman both are marijuana certified. So if marijuana, say, becomes legal here in the next few years, I can't untrain that dog from marijuana. So they're not the only dogs in the state. It's not like we have the last 2 marijuana dogs in the state. I mean, there's quite a few of them yet. So it's really up in the air as to what what we're going to do yet with if that does pass. I mean, obviously we can still use them in the schools or traffic stops with, you know, say juveniles or anything like that. But, you know, there's some workarounds that we're trying to, hopefully there's something we can do. Cause I mean, yeah, it would be a real pain if, you know, all of a sudden, all right, now I got to retire Kalo.
Because that would be the only alternative would be to
Right.
go purchase another dog. So what is the cost of average cost of a dual purpose?
Yeah,
dog?
I mean, you're buying dual purpose dog nowadays. I mean, you're looking at $12,000+ just for the dog. That has no training yet. That's nothing. That's just a dog. That's when we bought Kalo. You know, I still had. He wasn't even trained. He came from Slovakia. He didn't even know what his name was at that point, and he actually came with the name Kalo. But you know, they just test him over there, and then.
How old was he when you got him?
He was about a year and a half when I got him. So yeah, he came over from Slovakia, and yeah, I spent 14 weeks out in Albertville, Minnesota, in that general area, training him from sit and stay to where we are now. I mean, it was a quick 14 weeks. I could have used another 14 weeks there to, you know, really shine him up a little bit. But yeah, I learned a lot in those 14 weeks. It was great. There's two different ways you can get these dogs. You can get a dog that's already trained. You can go pick your vendor. There's vendors all over the country. You can pick that vendor, and they have a dog already trained for you. You get there, pretty much grab the leash, and you spend, usually it seems like it's about 6 weeks with one of those vendors that you spend out there, them teaching you how to run that dog. And with Kalo, it was 14 weeks of teaching him everything on my own. I don't mean on my own. I mean, there was trainers there, obviously. Right. But, yeah, you start from the basics and work all the way up to, you know, tracking and apprehension and all the narcotics. It was very in depth, but it was great because now I can bring that back. And if I run into a problem, I now have a good idea, not always, but usually have a pretty good idea how I can fix that problem. And if not, you know, the trainers I was with out there, I've got their cell numbers. I give them a call and they'll tell me exactly what some other options to do, because there's always more than one way to skin a cat. I mean, not every dog responds to the same things. So, you know, you tell them what you've been working on. This is the problem I have. This is what I've tried. What else can you do? And they'll give you some other ideas. You're like, oh, that's great. I didn't even think of that. And it's usually something easy. You just don't think about it because canine handler, I'm not real smart always. But yeah. And then, you know, you all of a sudden, oh yeah, wow, that worked. And it's fun when it works. It's frustrating when it doesn't, but it's fun when it works. It's rewarding.
What are some of when the defense attorneys get us up on the stand and they try to come after when the scrutiny starts to happen for the canine, the certifications, we get scrutinized on everything we do, rightfully so, many times. But what are some of those? What do they look at? What do they try to attack? The canine officer, the certifications, the dog. What do they try to go after? Yes.
So, I mean, you know, obviously we have to certify every year on a nationally recognized certification. So every year we do a minimum of 2. You only have to do 1, we do 2. So we do NPCA and USPCA. Both are narcotics. I also have to do a patrol certification yearly as well. So you're looking at you have to score at least 75% on these to pass. So, I mean, especially after time, it seems like early on in my career of canine, you know, I was probably getting questioned a little bit more up on the stand. But I think now, you know, being 8 years in, most of the local attorneys kind of understand. I hope I know what I'm talking about at this point in time and what I'm doing. And so I really honestly don't get too jammed up on the stand when I'm up there. I mean, as long as I can prove my dog's certified at the time and I can justify, you know, anything on video, if that's my alert, that's what I saw, that's about it. It's not so bad. It's, you know, the first few times I was very nervous going up there. Now I'm just like, I'm confident enough now that it's like, I know he did right. So I got no issues. Yeah.
Going back to the certification, what does that actually look like? Like what's the day entail? What are y'all trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so when we do go to these certifications, what we end up having to do is they put vehicles out, and each one's a little bit different, but overall it's pretty much the same concept. So like say an NPCA certification, there'll be 4 vehicles. 2 of the vehicles are blank, 2 of them are hot. Hot meaning there's narcotics hidden somewhere on the vehicle. So we'll usually start on vehicles, and to move on to the rooms portion of things, you at least have to find one of the hides on the vehicles. So what we do is we go around, search vehicles, get your alerts hopefully, and if not, you better be real good at guessing. But so get those alerts. Tell the judges, all right, here and here, you have to be within 1 foot of the hide. Otherwise, they don't give it to you. If I alert to the right vehicle, but I'm alerting on the trunk and the hide's actually up in the hood of the vehicle, that's a fail. So those dogs have to alert at source. So run those vehicles, move on to the rooms. Same thing. We'll have 3 rooms. 2 of the rooms have narcotics hidden in them, and one of them blank. And go in there, and same concept. You go in there, try to find the 2 different hides. Once you're done, you always put a marker down on the ground, a non-odorous marker, and put that on the ground. So when you come back, because you actually have to call it at the end, you call time, and then the judges say, okay, well, show me where they're at. So you got to go in and tell them, right here. You don't be real specific and right here, but it's I've done enough of them now that I'm not as nervous. The first few ones you do, you just, your brain goes blank on you. And I know it sounds like, oh, this should be super easy, but I mean, Mikey's done it. He can attest to it. It's nerve wracking. And it's funny because I mean, I make fun of the new guys that are in canine all the time, and knowing I was there myself, and I still screw up plenty, trust me. But yeah, it is. It's. But I have fun with it now, especially if you work some competition into it, because I'm a very competitive human being. And so when you put competition into it, then it's really fun for me. Then it's like, all right, let's go.
And typically at these certifications, they do some sort of competition element, or are they separate?
USPCA,
yes.
They do. Yep. So USPCA is a certification / competition.
Yep.
NPCA, they don't. Sometimes we'll do it where we'll run our certification, and then for fun afterwards, we'll make things a little bit more difficult. And
you've brought some equipment home with you here, even recently.
Yeah,
a couple first place stakes, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Well, going back to Nico, we won NDPOA. It was 3 times. At the time, we were the only 3 time winner of that event. Corey Lee tied me now, but I'll get him. Don't worry. I'll pace him. But I hope. But no, and then and then USPCA, like I said, they'll break that down into first, second, third place rooms, cars, and then they'll do a first, second, third overall. And so if you take first place in rooms, you can't take first place overall. They kind of just split it up a little bit. But last year we ended up second place overall. I think there was close to 70 some dogs at Fargo. So Kalo and I were second place overall. So what they do is they add your scores and you're scored on this as well for USPCA. NPCA is pass, fail, find it or don't find it. That's it. USPCA, they actually judge the handler and the dog. So you get scored on handler points and obviously the alerts and everything like that, how the dog performs. And so you go by time and you get deducted points for little things. I mean, things that you don't even realize you're doing, like passing the leash behind your back, something goofy like that might be a habit, and you just do it and then boom, you're deducted. So it's got to be a real clean run, especially when you're up against that many dogs to do that well. And then obviously you got to be quick too. I mean, it's, you can't take 10 minutes to find them. And even though you found them and probably looked really good doing it, well, your time's too high. You ain't getting nothing. So you go as quick as you can, still as accurately as possible. And I mean, you got to kind of give and take there a little bit. You always go into it that mindset of, I'm going to win this thing. But then dogs have their days, and so do handlers. So all of a sudden you realize, all right, we're kind of on the struggle bus today. We're going to slow it down. We're just going to pass the certification. It's because right now we're out of the trophy for this, so we're just going to pass certification. So then you just got to be able to make that decision in your brain that, all right, now let's just go for passing and let's not go for a trophy because we're out of the trophy at this point. But I've been pretty lucky so far. I mean, Kalo's done really well in these competitions. And then this year we ended up taking first place on the vehicles portion. We had one hiccup in the rooms, but the vehicles, he did really good. He was flying.
There's an exciting part of this here. I want to make sure that you get into the mix, Jayden. It's a little bit of a stigma to it too, but the people, as soon as you say you got the apprehension side of it, you got the bite, you got the dog, it's got these capabilities. What's that look like from the trainer side of it here? We know as a department, it's a huge task to take on, to have there, but dang, we know it's a great resource for us. Some of us can speak to some firsthand situations. What's that look like? Yeah,
so I mean, like I said, I church it up by saying apprehension, but bite, and it's a lot of liability on both me and the department. And so I'm not just kicking my dog loose to go bite everybody that I just feel like should be bit that day. So it's like anything else. It's a use of force. So really the dog apprehension falls right in line with tasers. So if I can tase you, I can dog you. But with that, I mean, I also use judgment too. I mean, there's certain things, I'm not going to go bite some little kid just because he's acting up. I'm not going to tase that little kid probably either. But, there's a time and place for everything. And just having the dog there is, I mean, it's priceless. I mean, people want to fight me. I don't blame them. Look at me. But but you bring the dog out, and it just their mood changes instantly. And
we just had a recent win story with this just the other day with a guy, right, coming out, giving up when Kalo was presented, just on the bark.
Yeah. I mean, just going to that door and having that dog making those canine announcements at the door. That hey, come out, or the dog's coming in. You will be found, and you may get bit. And I think nobody wants to get bit by a dog. I mean, getting punched by another human being or kicked or something, that's one thing, but it's a mental thing for people. You don't want to get bit by a dog.
And I would say, agree with me, Kalo has got a rather a mature bark.
It's a deep growly, and he's a big beefy dog too. Yeah. I mean, he looks like a all black wolf. Yep. And he's got a heck of a bite. I know firsthand after an ER visit that his bite's really good. It is just having that dog there and the dog barking. It gets a lot of people to, I mean, they'll give up right then and there just with having that dog there. A dog barks, and it's kind of like anything else. That 1% of people that you bring the dog in and introduce the dog with the possibility of getting bit, there's probably 1% of the population that's going to say, "No, I'm still fighting." All right, but that kind of with everything in our line of work, there's that 1% that no matter what happens, they're going to fight us. Yeah. And
we've talked about the Bearcat and bringing the Bearcat in and how that changes things from that kind of compliance, and getting people that just want to, just because of the way that it looks in a good way, and when things end in a good way. And we've seen that over and over with Kalo and with our canines. He's got a lot of people to, and the nice part is, just having him there, it keeps us from having to use force. We don't want to. I want to go home every night just like anybody else does from their job, and I'd rather not have to use force on people, but obviously I'm in this job, it happens. And so just having that dog there, and it just having people just give up willingly instead of, all right, now we got to bring a little bit more fight to them. It's a great tool to have. And like I said, it's nerve-wracking too, because I'm very attached to Kalo. I spend more time with him than I do with my wife and kids. And granted, I love my wife and kids more. But Haley's going to be listening,
right? So she's listening. I love you more.
Good save.
Right? But you do. You spend so much time with these dogs. You get attached to them. I don't want to send them into,
We got 2 daughters. How's Kalo with the kids at home?
He's good. He is. He's good. He's rambunctious. So he's intimidating. When he's standing on just all fours and he's looking my 6-year-old in the eyeballs pretty much, that's intimidating to them, and they know what he's capable of, and they love him, but they're a little apprehensive around him. I have no concerns about him doing any, biting any of them ever, but they're dogs. You never know. So, you treat them a little differently. It's a working dog. So they're not a pet. They're a working dog. So he does not live in the house with us, because if he did, I would not have couches or carpet or anything left in my house. He destroyed my grill. I had to buy a new grill. And he can't sit still ever. And in the amount of time I've had him, I have yet to, and sounds stupid, but I have never seen the dog sleep. And that's the God honest truth. I've never seen him sleep. I'll spend plenty of time in motel rooms with him on certifications, trainings, whatever. I'll roll over in the middle of the night, look over. He's just sitting there staring at me. Middle of the night in the back of the car, I'll look back there. He's quiet for a little bit because usually he's making some sort of noise. I'll look back, and he's laying down, but he's staring at me. So it's probably why he's so crazy he doesn't sleep. But, going back to the kids. He's really good with the kids. He just, like I said, he likes to play, and he's big and doesn't realize his size. So he'll knock him over, not purposely, but he likes to put his butt into you and wants you to pet him. Well, he puts your butt into a 40-pound kid. They go flying 40 feet. So, they're a little scared around him just as far as that goes. But overall, really good.
You got a couple things you've mentioned similar phrases, but talking about the imperfection of the dog and having bad days. I think it's a really big one because people, we're here and we definitely want to put them up on the proverbial pedestal because they are great and all that jazz. But there are bad days and off days, and just like human beings, right? And we understand that from our end. We deal with a lot of people that are just having a bad day. It's just that moment that we unfortunately we have to go there. What do you think what's the future of canine handling look like trend-wise in the profession? Where we headed?
I think right now I don't see any major changes minus, the marijuana thing will change some things, but that, as far as the job itself, that's just one thing that'll be off the table that we won't be training dogs on anymore. But other than that, no, I mean, I don't see any like real major changes. Minus, more and more SWAT teams are starting to try to integrate dogs into the SWAT team as well. But that's a whole nother level of training and time and whatever else that I just don't foresee it happening here anytime soon. I mean, you pretty much have to dedicate that dog solely to a SWAT team because, Kalo's trained well, but he'd have to be fivefold better than he is right now to do the job correctly with a SWAT team. And obviously, and I'm on the SWAT team, so I'm busy with that anyways. I wouldn't have time to run him on there anyways, but as far as any major changes, I don't see anything in the near future, I guess. Do
you see in the next 5 to 10 years more canines in the field, the same, less, trending to anything different?
I see more and more. I mean, every department, in my opinion, should have a dog. It's like I said, they're a great, I don't want to call them a tool because they're a living being, but they're a great tool in the belt to have. There's so much they can do, and you're calling canines from, say, and I get it, it's a big expense, so not every department can afford it, but as long as there's one at least near. But, I've responded as far as I had to drive to Beach, North Dakota one time just for a sniff on the interstate for the highway patrol. And I've traveled to every surrounding county out here to do tracks and, burglaries and possible break-ins, things like that, and clearing houses and buildings and things like that with the dog. So, for a department to have that, and it's just more readily available for that department to, quicker response times and things like that. Because, Southwest North Dakota, and you get some weather or something like that, my response isn't real quick always. But, I just that's one thing maybe I do see is that, more and more departments are seeing this, and even these smaller departments are getting dogs now. And
this Boston Robotics recently had, or the robotic dog NYPD had deployed for a short term. I think they yanked it off, and I say that smiling the whole time. But I mean, do you know anything about that realm at all?
I don't.
Much at the coffee table with your canine handlers?
No, I don't. Although that robot might be easier to tell it to sit and stay, and it might listen a little better. But no, I guess I'm not too concerned about my job getting taken over by a robot anytime soon. So
yeah, right. And who knows? Maybe technology. We'll see.
Right.
I just know that that's been floated around on some of the topics. I was kind of we'll come up and wrap this thing up nicely. I think we're going to get Kalo in here and do some conversation on some of that. I think remove your corporal stripes, Jayden. You remove yourself just as your tenure and stuff here, and you think back in time. What are some things for some of our younger officers that may be listening to this, and just advice? Do you have one piece of advice that you would give a younger Jayden coming into this? You've seen your career progress, and one, and it's kind of a goofy one, is one piece of advice is keep a book of what you've done in your career. People told me that, and I was like, I ain't doing that. I can barely spell, much less write a whole book about, but just it's fun. You think back of all these stories, and it's hilarious. I mean, you could write a book that you could sell 1 million copies of some of the stories and things you see. People just, it sounds like a dumb thing, but it is. You think back of all this stuff, it's a lot of fun to go back and at the end of your career look at that and be like, oh yeah, that was fun. It brings back a lot of good memories, because you have a lot of good memories here. A lot of bad too, but there's more good than bad. And so that'd be like one little piece of advice. Other thing, my biggest piece of advice to any new officer is treat people with respect. I'm the first person, I know we show up to calls and it's hectic, whatever else, but I always try to, right away, it's, if you show me respect, I'm going to show it back, and I'm going to show it to you first, and I'm not expecting you to give it to me right away because you're having a real bad day. But if you can stay calm, and, that de-escalates things more times than not. And, if you go in with that mindset of, oh, I'm a cop, you have to listen to every word I say,
you kind of do, but at the same time, there's a way of going about that. And just my biggest word of advice for any new officer every time I talk to them is just treat people with respect and stay calm. And it's not always easy to do. I mean, you show up and it hits the fan and your brain implodes and whatever else, but just take that breath and that extra half second. If you have that half second, sometimes you don't even have that half second to make that decision. But, you know, if you do, try to take that little extra time and just calm down and just talk to people like another person. I mean, it's
okay. That's good. All right, Mikey, what do you think? Do you have any last questions or comments for Jayden here? And how do we want to play the speed cuff? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, if you think we can get Kalo in here, get him to sit.
We can attempt.
We can attempt.
Give it a shot.
I don't know how much these microphones cost, but you might be buying a new one.
All right.
We'll shake the dice. So, well, yeah, then we'll just play it out here to quick, I guess, commercial sort of thing. So if you're on audio, just hang tight. If you're watching us here on Facebook or YouTube, just hang tight. We'll get Kalo back here in just a few seconds.
Sounds good. But give it a shot. That
it's a good idea until it's not.
Until it's not, but I think
I told you so. But
we tried to get him in here. He's a big guy. Maybe I'll put like an outtake or like an overlay while we do this, just to at least show the viewers a little bit and maybe some audio there. But we'll just bounce off and pick up where we're at.
Important for the community to see who's making up the team there.
Yeah, right. He's the looks,
So
and the brains. So.
yeah, parting shots from you though. You know, Jayden coming in on this, got an opportunity to say anything at all there. Yeah, really, community department, just going to give you kind of the floor to anything you come at.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, going back, we touched on this earlier, but I mean, I can't think of another community I'd rather do this in. I love Dickinson. Dickinson's home. I don't see myself ever leaving.
Right.
And as far as community goes, we have an awesome community when it comes to support of law enforcement. I mean, yeah, we have plenty of outliers too, but that's anywhere you go nowadays. And as far as support for like the canines and everything like that, I mean, people see dogs and they go goo-goo.
They do.
I show up to a school full of kids and whoop-de-doo, but you bring the dog in there and it's just, I mean, every kid tells you how they have a dog, their aunt has a dog, their dad has a dog. I mean, which is great. That's part of it, you know. I mean, that's why I go and do it. And, it's just, you make every one of those kids feel important that they got a dog of their own that they know and everything. It's a ton of fun. And I mean, over the years of doing it, I've had plenty of kids come up after meeting Kalo or Nico when I had her say the same thing. Now I want to be a canine cop when I'm older. And that's always cool. If you make any impression like that, then it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we get a lot of people entering the profession that are aspiring canine officers. So,
right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a neat thing. So I know from our end, certainly appreciative, Jayden, what you have done over the course of time here. We have some big wins on it. We got some article sniffs maybe before we kick it off in the speed cuff. I do want to talk about, like, we had a big case here last year that people need to know about related. Remember we went out Turtle Park, found some stuff. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about that, how that worked.
Yeah. So we had a homicide here in town. Throughout the interviews with our detectives, we got a lead on where the firearm that was used might have been. We were told, obviously, Turtle Park, so Dickinson Dike, and at this juncture, there's an intentional act taking place to try to hide the weapon. Correct. Yeah. So we got a general idea of where it may be, and again, going into that, the toolbox with the dogs of more than just one thing they can do. One of them that he's really good at is article search. And so what the dogs are looking for in article search, Kalo doesn't know what a gun is, but he smells human odor. And, obviously that gun has human odor on it. Long story short, we get out to the dike, and we were kind of given a general area. And for all of you that have been out there, all the trees there on the one side of the dike, it's a mess, and it's steep and it's overgrown. And I looked at that, and there were some words I was thinking and didn't say, and I was like, all right, well, we'll see, give it a try. So I checked which way the wind was coming from, worked into the wind, used the wind to our advantage. The dogs pick up on things from a lot further away, obviously, when you're using the wind. I'd say probably 20 minutes into this and about 500 sticks in my face and eyes and other places. All of a sudden, Kalo, we're going back up this hill again. We kind of I'm just going to break it down, just do half of those trees at a time. And it's a long stretch of trees. And I was like, I'm just going to let them work it up and down into the wind and see what happens. And about 20 minutes in, and I'm cut up, I'm bleeding. There's blood rolling down my face because I'm taking sticks in the face.
We're doing this.
And I'm like, all right, we're in it. It's too late to stop now. I'm finishing this. And he's going up the hill, and it worked out perfectly because there was just a little bit of gust of wind, and he put the brakes on. His head snapped to the left. And I've got him now on a tracking harness and on a 20-foot lead. And on a line, he goes running to a tree that's probably, I suppose, 30 yards away from us. And my first thought is skunk. But, I'm like, oh, great. And I'm cut up and I'm going to stink like skunk. But so he goes barreling over there, and he jumps underneath a whole bunch of brush, and he starts digging. And I mean, digging, there's dirt flying behind him. And I go up to see what's going on, because now I'm thinking, all right, now it's not a skunk. Like, this might be it. Yeah, lo and behold, I go up there, and he goes up, and as soon as he gets to the article, he did what he was supposed to do, which is lay down. And he did. He lays down right there in between his two legs. He's looking back at me, and there's a object wrapped in some clothing. And I was like, no way. There's no way we found this quickly. And so I pull him back. I heel him beside me and down him. And I go and I carefully open that up. And lo and behold, there it is. There's a gun right there. And I was like, yeah, it works. So
yeah, there's a few more there on maybe a different episode. We bring you back around and tie into some of those. But yeah, that's a great one for them to hear what he's capable of doing, what he's doing for them. For the community,
right. And it is a real team effort. Yeah, the dog knows what he's doing, but I mean, it takes a real competent handler to be able to read everything the dog's telling you too. And Jayden,
100%.
Yeah, and Jayden, over the years, you've just been that tactician that's just been absolutely solid for our canine program. So he wouldn't have, you guys wouldn't have been able to find it wasn't the team thing. But for you to be able to read them like that, that's all props to you too, man.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, it's a team effort. I mean,
a lot of people want to be a canine officer that are coming in from the outside or even in the profession. Not everybody can.
Right. Yep. It's a lot more work than it appears. Put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're gonna get to the end here, Jayden. You're gonna know quickly. We do a speed cuffing round. Okay, this is where we get this chance to see inside your head a little bit here. You got
ain't much there, but yeah, you can try to look
quick on the spot. Well, you went there, but. Anyways, we're going to give you a bunch of questions over 30 seconds, and you're just going to give back as fast as you can the first thing that pops in to that dome of yours. Okay?
All right.
So
here we go.
Here we are. There we are, Jayden. Favorite food?
Walleye.
Favorite genre of music?
Oh, I got to go with country.
Lab or Malamute for work?
Lab. Or Malinois or Malamute?
Malamute.
Malamute? Yeah. I'm going lab over Malamute. Malinois, different story.
308 and 6.5 Creedmoor.
Oh, God, I like both of them, but I gotta go with the 6.5.
Chiamo or St. Croix fishing rods?
St. Croix.
Ranger or tracker boats?
Ranger.
Taking wife out on a date or taking the wife fishing?
Oh, can the date be fishing?
Yeah. All right.
Well played.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I wanted to finish with that one. At least I skipped over a few. And Haley's listening to this thing. We're thinking about you,
she probably won't listen. She don't want to hear how dumb I am on this. So yeah,
we're saying our prayers for you, Haley.
All right.
For Nora and Quinn there.
Say a lot of them.
Yeah, that's good. Very appreciative. We got an hour out of this thing, Jayden. I think it's great. It's going to be really informative for a lot of people, and appreciate you taking some time out of your day here. And you got work to do, and I've got to get back to the street and getting after it for them. So, anything today?
Yep. No, just appreciate you, Jayden. Just watching you kind of grow up over the years here, and just the true leader and the great ambassador you are for the police department, and the mentor that you're serving for all the young guys coming in. We appreciate you being part of the team, and
my pleasure. So,
you bet, man. So,
cool.
With that,
kick it out.
Yeah, we're going to have one coming up here next month. And so stay tuned, everybody. As it goes, get onto the podcast, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, YouTube channel. Share it. Spread the word. We are continuing to grow. A lot of positive feedback. That is all to Lieutenant Handel, his production man. So thank you a bunch, Mikey.
Hey, it's fun, man.